Okay, Cowboys lost. Here's what's troubling most of all. It's not just the record, but it was a different kind of loss. Atlanta is a finesse team. So I thought, okay, Dak will be comfortable, right? Like Geno Smith, hot knife through butter against Atlanta in Atlanta. Dallas wasn't overpowered. We've watched them get overpowered by the teams like the Lions or the Packers in the playoffs or the Ravens. We watch them get overpowered. They were just unprepared. And Dak Prescott's been in this league 9 seasons. All these illegal motion penalties, false starts in crucial situations, 9 different penalties. I mean, in the third quarter, the Cowboys were going to go for it on a 4th and 1. There was a penalty called, too many players on the field. What are we doing? What are we doing? This wasn't getting overpowered. I thought Dallas was going to win this game. It was like we're not really very efficient at what we do. For the record, since Mike McCarthy took over the Cowboys as head coach, always been an issue with Mike McCarthy teams lead the NFL in penalties. Well, this team's not good enough to overcome that. This is not a team that can go in and get 8, 9, 10 penalties a week. They beat themselves. Dallas outrushed Atlanta. They did. Outpassed Atlanta. They had more total yards than Atlanta. They were +1 in turnovers. Atlanta is a finesse team. Quarterbacks are very comfortable. And you don't have to be a football expert. You're watching a coach throw a tablet, too many yellow flags, penalties in crucial situations. It's like Dallas won all the little battles. More yards, more rushing, more passing, and they lost the war. So it just feels like to me Dallas right now is an unmade bed of a franchise. The talent, the roster, the lack of leadership, and they're locked in. I mean, some teams are bad in this league, and you're like, well, they'll get the number 1 pick, they'll get a quarterback. I mean, somebody's going to get Shedeur Sanders at Colorado. Maybe a Cam Ward from Miami in college. Somebody's going to get Sam Darnold in the market. Like, you can turn things around in this league. That's why it's so much more popular, one of the many reasons, than the NBA or hockey or baseball. I mean, you can swing it from awful, the Houston Texans, to the playoffs in 1 year. You can do Washington, where you're a laughing stock of the league. Now you may win your division. You can do that in the NFL, but Dallas, because of what they're paying Dak, and because of Jerry Jones' ego and vanity and his unwillingness to let other sharp people in the building and make decisions over him, I think they're trapped. So you don't have to be a football expert. Just the penalties, the vibes around the Dallas Cowboys are absolutely terrible right now. Jerry Jones, who's kind of gotten into a wandering stage, just talking in circles, was very emotional after the loss.
I really regret this for all of our Dallas Cowboy fans. I will tell you this, that I've been around. I've seen Michael Irvin tear up and cry when he couldn't lose anybody because he's just recovering from knee surgery. Yet his ass came back and led a team to 3 Super Bowls. I know you can be there if you're there. That room's full of guys that can get it done. I believe that, coaches and all.
Well, the good news for Dallas, though, very hopeful, the facility tours are booked solid. So if you've ever wanted to watch a factory on fire, you go book the tours in Dallas. They have the 3rd worst point differential in the NFC. Like, I said before this season, I said Philly and Washington are going to make the playoffs. Washington's going to be the surprise team. I said, Dallas, you're going to see a slight regression with the Cowboys, and they may win 9 or 10. They won't make the playoffs. My bad. They may win 6. It's a bad football team. It's a poorly run team. It's from a quarterback perspective, it's sort of mediocre. I mean, I saw Dak go off and scramble yesterday, and it was like he was laboring the entire time. Like, this is a bad team that is trapped behind an average-ish quarterback with a massive contract for the next 4 years, and I do not know how they dig their way out of it. Colin, right, wrong in 45 minutes.
Okay. Yeah, there's no way to slice it. Colin's coming on fire here, with the Bears and the Cowboys to start the show. Yeah, the Cowboys are a mess, just like the Bears, quite frankly. And the problem is I don't know what the future looks for the Cowboys because, right, people still overinflate who Dak is, okay? And we can see that right now, Dak cannot overcome these issues, right? He can't overcome this team. He even admitted he was caught saying, we blanking stink, right? He used different language than that, but he knows it. He knows it because Dak's not dumb. We can criticize Dak for his quarterback play, but he is a very smart person, and he knows it. But if we want to say, oh well, some of his weapons are injured, which again is not really totally true, because you still have CeeDee Lamb, which is still better than 75-80% of all the other wide receiving cores out there just with CD alone, quite frankly. And Mike McCarthy. All right, I don't think Mike McCarthy's this super genius, amazing coach, but he's also not an average defensive head coach who's a mess, right? Like Mike McCarthy does know how to run an offense. Again, I don't think he's some elite coach, but he's going to be better than average, right? And with all that said, Dak's accuracy right now, right, his ability to throw on target is 64%. I mean, Daniel Jones is 72%. Jaden Daniels, rookie quarterback, 72%. Does Daniel Jones have these amazing elite weapons to throw to? CJ Stroud, all his weapons are injured, and he has an awful offensive line. And his accuracy rate is 75%. So a lot of this is on Dak. Greg Olson pointed out, right? Dak's first sack, or I think it was first sack or second sack. He goes, it was all on him. This was all on Dak missing open guys, which then led to the third down sack, which then led to a punt from the back of their end zone, which then led to the Falcons being up 7-3 with the ball on the 50. It's a domino effect of lots of things. And again, I don't want to put this all on Dak. But then you have a fourth down call, right? Where you kick a field goal, where you don't kick a field goal, I mean, and yet they don't trust Dak, right? Like they're gonna punt, right? Where they rather have the punter throw, where was it 4th and 2, rather than have Dak do it, right? Rather than have the quarterback who you just paid hundreds of millions of dollars. Like that doesn't make sense. And you can put it on the flip side, where you can see when the Falcons were in that situation, they had Kirk Cousins throwing. I watched all around the league. They had all these quarterbacks throwing. You had Jalen Hurts throwing, Jaden Daniels throwing, Kirk Cousins throwing, but not Dak. Like what is that? Where is the trust no longer there? Does Mike McCarthy no longer trust Dak? Is Mike McCarthy just a terrible play caller? Is he a good play caller, but he's just trying his best with what he has? Like, what is this situation here? I mean, and again, you can look at the Falcons, and it's not like the Falcons are this stacked roster with super geniuses. And again, everyone told me, because when I said that Kirk Cousins is the equal or even slightly better than Dak, a lot of Dallas Cowboys fans got angry about that. But then it's just like, look at Kirk Cousins controlling an offense. Look at the throws that he's making. I mean, like he's a smooth operator. And that's what kind of Colin was pointing out. This Falcons team didn't overpower. It wasn't like, oh my God, they have so many weapons, you can't stop us. It was just execution at that point. And you can see the parallels. I mean, I really just don't always honestly get it. Right. Oh, the other fourth down call that they had, where right you could have kicked a field goal, but instead you did like a jet sweep to CeeDee Lamb, which then got stopped, and then that's when McCarthy threw the tablet, and it's like I just question that whole thing, honestly. It just doesn't make sense. And then the whole thing was, right, you went out and got Zeke because you're like, he's a good locker room guy, good leader, captain, Dak's friend, and then he doesn't even dress. He stays home. It's reported that he's like missing meetings, showing up late to practice, right? He's angry, I guess, maybe about his playing time or whatever it is. Like, see, that's what I'm trying to say. Like, it's just all this self-contained mess. There's nowhere to look for positives right now, and it's a problem. I mean, it really is. Kirk Cousins had all day in the pocket. I mean, again, even because when I was talking about the bizarre fourth down calls, the perfect example of this is Kirk Cousins scores a touchdown. It's fourth down. Diggs busted coverage, and then it was just the easiest touch. I mean, like it was. I mean, it was just like an easy pitch and catch pass for a touchdown. Again, that play probably encapsulates perfectly the Falcons and the Cowboys, right? What the Cowboys were not able to do versus what the Falcons were able to do. Yeah, I mean, right, they had 9 penalties. They were 3 for 13 on third down, 1 for 5 on fourth. Dak was 133 yards, 5.5 yards per attempt, 1 touchdown. And then Cooper Rush came in and was practically the same quarterback. That is a problem. When you have your backup quarterback going there and your offense pretty much doesn't skip a beat, it pretty much looks identical and the same, right? Cooper Rush went 13 for 25, 1 touchdown and 115 yards. I mean, that's a problem. That is pretty concerning. And yeah, I don't know how quickly the Cowboys can turn it around. We do know the Cowboys typically draft surprisingly really well, but they have a culture issue. They have an owner/GM issue. I think they truly have a Dak issue. I think the only way Dak could ever really win and lead this team to a Super Bowl is if he was on the 49ers, if he had Kyle Shanahan as his coach and was just in a stacked roster. He needs a fully healthy Christian McCaffrey, fully healthy Ayuk, fully healthy Debo, right? Like he just fully healthy Kittle. He needs an absolute stacked roster. And it's really hard to get an absolute stacked roster when you command the amount of money that he got. That has always been my issue with Dak. I think he's a pretty good quarterback. He is not great. He's not elite. Colin called him average. He's probably above average because I think he can do above average things, but then he does below average things. He's not this top 5 quarterbacks, a top 5 quarterback. And you can't blame everything around him. Because again, just look at his level of accuracy. And look at, again, that's why CJ Stroud's kind of this beautiful example, because he's throwing to no one. He's a second-year player. He's got a terrible offensive line, yet he's still accurate. Patrick Mahomes is also high up in there. I think he's like 75, 76, 77%, whatever it is. He's within range. And we know that he's got no weapons to throw to. Now, again, we can point to some game planning, especially with Andy Reid. But again, CJ Stroud doesn't have that. Right? Their game plans have been awful. So some of it has to fall on the quarterback. Not some of it. Majority does. Majority does. So, yeah, the Cowboys are a mess. Dak's a mess right now. Coaching's a mess. Ownership's a mess. Defense is a mess. Running game's a mess. Where do you look to where you say there's positives right now for the Dallas Cowboys? I don't see it, honestly. I mean, he had Micah Parsons talking trash on his podcast before this game. He's not even playing, and he's like, "Oh, the Atlanta Falcons, for them it's the game of the year. For us, it's just a game of the week." And it's like what are you talking about right now? Like what are you doing? They have a leadership mess. They're just a mess. I'm sorry. There's just no way to put it. There's no real silver lining right now. There's really not. Because I don't know how you possibly turn there. Even if you had Ben Johnson right now, would this team be a little bit better? Absolutely. Would this team be a Super Bowl contender? Absolutely not. So how can you you just paid Dak all this amount of money, which means you have these next 4 years to go out and win a Super Bowl, because 4 years after this, you're going to win a Super Bowl with Dak? I mean, how old's the guy going to be at that point? No, that's not going to happen. This was probably Dak's last real big shot these next 4 years. Tell me how you're possibly going to turn this into a Super Bowl contending team. And if you can't, well, then what are you doing? But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Dallas Cowboys? What's the fundamental issue with them? Is it Dak? Is it coaching? Is it Jerry? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I'd absolutely love to see part of it. I'm going to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.